My name is Eric Oakley. I'm a touring professional disc golfer. I have been on tour for now, and this is going to be my 10th season. And that's pretty wild to say that I've been doing it for that long and that I've been able to do it for that long. But a lot of what we're going to talk about today will hopefully help you guys just kind of get better at disc golf and whatever it is for you. I think that that's the part of this, is that for some, it's they want to aspire to be better and professionals, and they want to go to that next level. Some of it, they just want to beat their homies on the weekend. Whatever that is great, and that's the beauty of disc golf. And before I start talking about form, that's a really important thing to understand, is that nobody plays disc golf the same. Nobody throws the same, nobody putts the same, nobody's doing anything the same. And that's because it's an expression of who you are, an expression of skill, an expression of what you figured out. To me, I've played a bunch of different sports, and that has maybe tailored me to throw a certain way because I picked up stuff from soccer or other sports. For you, I know my wife Tina, she was a dancer, so a lot of what she picked up on was from balance, from dance and stuff like that. There's so many things we can pull in to help us understand, but it doesn't mean you need to throw like somebody else, because at the end of the day, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And that's really what happens at the end of the day. So however you can find ways to get holes finished and completed, if it's lower than par, that's pretty good, and we take those. And if it is par, I think par is pretty good, so we also take those. So keep that in mind as you start to adapt into the game and understand that you should not be trying to be someone else. Continue to be yourself. And that goes into life anyways. Just be the true version of you, which is great. I'm going to talk about backhand, forehand, and maybe some putting and mental game. I'm going to try and keep it somewhat brief because I want to get us throwing for that ace. But one of the biggest things that I see in players is that they're often playing a lot of scored rounds. We talked about this today, Logan. It's like a lot of players are just playing scored round, scored round, scored round. It's like, throw extra shots. See the shots fly. Don't play for score all the time. Go and practice and do it. Do field work. Go putt. Do whatever you have to do. And that's where you're going to find ways to adapt your game more than playing a scored round and trying to improve your personal best. If you're not putting in the effort in throwing to understand your discs and make good decisions, it's probably your personal best might stay where it's at because you're just kind of plateauing, and we can push past that with a little extra effort. So don't be afraid to pull off of the scored rounds and just get out and enjoy the throwing and get better in that way. You're going to naturally see yourself get better. AJ Risley, who's now works for the Pro Tour, was a touring player. He put the term in my head, and I think it's one of the best terms. Is like, my throwodometer compared to your throwodometer. Mine is hundreds of thousands of miles at this point. I am a Honda Civic. I'm going to run until the end of time, right? A lot of you guys might be a new Kia or a new Lexus or new something nice. Maybe you're BMW. But you got little plastic pieces and little pieces that you're going to have to take back in to get fixed constantly. They're under warranty because something wasn't right. You got to break through that warranty by putting in the miles and throwing and throwing and throwing and throwing. So that's like a really important concept to keep in mind as you're starting to get better and as you're starting to look to improve. So yeah, just go throw. I think that's like kind of the coolest concepts. That's why we get the Go Throw Tour. They're just trying to give us more opportunities to make it happen on tour. So let's start talking about backhands. Everybody should be wanting to have a backhand. Everybody should be wanting to have a forehand. I think it's really important in our day and age that you got to have both. And it's okay if one of them is stronger than the other. You just challenge yourself. That's why the extra throws and playing for not score is great, because you're always playing for score. You're only going to throw the one shot you feel the most comfortable in. And we don't want that. So we're going to talk about 3 points of the backhand that everybody does differently. If anybody has seen me throw in a video or on my Instagram or wherever, my run-up is unique. But what I do the same to other players is we all get to the same 3 points, and you can recognize this, and this is another tip for you. Use video to help yourself improve. you will quickly start to realize that, oh, I'm rounding. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing these things that I've heard that people shouldn't do. It happens. But if you have somebody's got a smartphone, you know, boom, have them film your next throw. And one tool in that is film 5 throws in a row, recognize which ones felt good, which ones felt bad, and compare the two. That's where you can start to see, what did I do in the good throws in compared to the bad throws? So you can start to have better thoughts as you're working on those throws. So in the backhand, we are really trying to work on getting a straight arm reach back. And what I mean by straight, it's not as far as I can reach. Because what often happens with that reach back, people will overreach and they'll come over to their left shoulder, and that is going to lead to rounding, because I am now having to come around my body to finish the throw. I really want this to be in line with where I'm trying to throw and pushing it out there. How you get to that point is fine. You have Simon Lizotte, who comes here, he's really tight, and he pushes his hand out before he throws. That's fine. I do a wide rail where my hand is pretty much extended until I just let it rotate. So I almost keep the disc here as I rotate around. The disc kind of never left this spot, essentially, and I eventually got it to the back. Both are fine, and now that'll start us into the pull through. Now, what we're trying to do with that backhand is keep it level and keep it on a straight line. So if we're throwing over something, match the plane. Reach down to throw up. Same thing, you're going downhill, reach up to throw down to match that. Those are things you can do with your reach back, and that's all I would really change. Now, moving on to the pull through, which is the next important part of it, is we don't want any dips. We don't need a heartbeat. We want this thing to be as level as possible. You guys are going to see at the Another Round shop, they have a beautiful bar. Think about if there was a couple discs on there, maybe some beers or something like that. You just really want to clean them off. You just want to see what happens, right? That's what we're trying to do with throws. Everybody's had that impulsive thought of like, I could throw everything on the ground. It would be really fun. But you can't really do it, but that's what we do in disc golf. You're really trying to keep this thing as level as possible all of the way through. And in doing so, I'm not looking to change the angle with my wrist or anything like that. I'm going to combine my reach back and my pull through being level, as linear as possible, and then use my shoulders or bending at my hips, whichever you prefer, to change the angle of release that I'm working on. I'll be here flat, I'm upright, it's going to be a flat shot. Hyzer. Notice my wrist didn't change. I'm on a hyzer line. I lean back for an anhyzer. Same concept, and I'm trying to pull through as level as possible throughout that shot. Not also trying to have any arcs or swoops or anything at the end. I think that's probably one of the most common things. People get that air bounce where it just comes out, they do this at the end. And it's just because they aren't staying in and following through forward. So you got that straight arm reach back, and ways that you can recognize if you're not, it's like put a brightly colored disc. That's great, clip that. Sorry. All right, so put a brightly colored disc at the back left of the tee pad. And now, as you're going through, it's a back left. For me, as a right-handed player, at the back left, I know that I'm trying to reach to that disc rather than reaching to my left shoulder. So that can cause rounding. So if you think you are rounding, put a visual aid. And there's nothing against you putting your bag there or something there that allows you to reach towards them. Now on the pull through, again, we're talking, if you see that you're having issues, overemphasize your follow through. Overemphasize making sure you're forward as you release. I would much rather see players throw them straight into the ground than throw them nose up skying, because when the disc is nose up, it is slowing down the whole time. If you're level and flat and it's just low, that's gonna work, because once you get it, you figure out how to get a little bit higher and keep that nose down, you're gonna get some serious distance. And that's really, really important of what we're trying to gain. So the last part of we pulling all this together, straight arm reach back, like level pull through the whole way, no heartbeat, no nothing. You're working through it. The last part is gonna be the last step of the backhand throw. So if I'm here and I'm reaching back to throw, my hips only went to Mason. I want my hips this way. I want my hips engaged in the throw. Because my feet are parallel here, I am now having to do a couple things, and I'll kind of turn this way so you guys can see it a little bit more. And I can only twist my hips so much without being fully locked up. And when I'm reaching back, I'm having to go through my chest to execute this throw. And now that is going to be, I'm almost forced into rounding to make the throw work. All I'm going to tell you guys to do, stagger your feet. And what this does, this allows me to create a channel for me to reach back, right back here. And now I am not in the way of this throw. So if I'm here, I am not in the way of this throw because I'm able to pull right through here. I've created that divide by having a stagger in my feet. Whatever makes sense for you, it can be drastic, it can be barely at all. Just don't want to get to parallel. Because what's gonna happen here is, watch my hips now. They originally were going to Mason, right? Now when I'm here, they're facing this way. And now this allows for me, with this separation, I'm able to get here. And as I'm pulling through, I'm able to use pushing from my back leg into my front leg, and that snap in my hips goes into the throw. Disc golf is just as much, if not more, a pushing motion from your run-up and pushing off of that back leg into that front leg and then exploding into it than it is pulling with your arm. This is more a sling than anything else. This is not the main driving force. Now, as you start to get better, you might incorporate a little bit more of a aggressive pull, but don't let that be the main thought, because then what that leads to is players throwing all upper body, and you're just doing a number on your shoulder and your elbow. It's not fun. So same thing with forehand, which we'll talk about. So this is a pretty easy thing to recognize. That might be where your rounding is coming from, is because you're just coming to parallel. And also what happens is as you're doing an X step or however you do your footwork, you're coming all the way around, so you're already like wasting that energy. Or if I'm coming to here, it's a shorter distance to travel, and now I'm able to not waste energy waiting for my foot to get to the ground. So once this foot hits the ground, my pull through is now starting. What happens a lot is people come all the way around here and their pull through has already come through a touch, and they're not on a straight arm reach back. They're at a curve. They're like almost already pulling part of the way through. Might lose 20% to 30% power that way. So that last step is really important. Another part, I use my footwork to hit gaps. I'm not thinking or looking or anything like that. Because I'm using this plant foot to hit where I need it to, I know that if I keep my head in the throw, head down, just like in golf or baseball or anything, you're not lifting your head to see where it goes, you're staying in your throw. If I stay in my throw, I have created this channel of where the disc is going to go if I do my part. So I trust my footwork to help me hit gaps. And then I also stay in my throw. Because if I look up to see where it's going, this is what happens with this leading shoulder. It is now here, not here. Where's the disc gonna go? There. Woods are probably over there. This is where the gap is, so that's where we want to stay. So allowing that to be, creating that channel will help a ton. So that's backhand. I will do questions at the end as well, so if you have some extra thoughts, we'll rip into those here in a minute. But we're going to talk forehand, and who here has seen Sarah Hokum play disc golf or knows of her forehand form? She has very unique forehand form, for those who don't know. She uses understable discs and has very unique forehand form. I will show you, she's like this as she's throwing forehands. But she's the best forehand disc golfer in the FBO division. She's great. But what she's doing really well is that same concept that I talked about with my shoulders for hyzer and hyzer. She's doing hyzer and hyzer. She's using her shoulder to lead. So I talk about keeping my ear to the ground, because hyzer flip backhands are common, but hyzer flip forehands seem to be foreign, and that doesn't seem right, because not every hole moves from right to left. Holes move from left to right. Some are super straight. So a big part of what I like to do with learning and teaching a forehand is I work with really understable discs that are natural. I learned with a DX Leopard. Has anybody thrown a DX Leopard? Right? Those things are flippy. They're crazy flippy. But that's the type of disc that I was learning to throw forehands with. Because if I could make that disc hyzer and I could make it move how I wanted it to, that means I'm very much in control of my game and where discs are going to go. And then I can graduate up from there like people do with discs. They might have started with a DX Leopard, but now they're on to a Valkyrie or another disc or something like that. They're on to an Onyx or whatever company you like. I don't know the MVP stuff enough to know. A Volt, maybe something. All right, there we go. Nailed it. And in that, we're allowing the discs to work for us, not against us. Now, that overstable chop forehand that you can just take right here and just throw it over, and it goes plenty far, still really good. It was cool. That is fine. There are times where you need to be able to chop it over and have it flex, and or you need no nonsense of it. This disc can't flip because I need to get around the corner and I need it to just go right. Fine, that's great. But that's a tool you have. That is not the only forehand you have. So I like to work with slower and really understable discs to where I can throw just an effortless shot and have it do the same thing, but be 50% power. That's a Pathfinder, very straight mid-range. It's not meant to be thrown as overstable, and I made that look like a zone or an approach disc, but I didn't have to throw it as hard as I possibly could. So what I focus on a lot with that is it's a lot more wrist action than you think and not as much arm throwing. But I will do, on bigger throws, I will kind of put some more arm into it, but I still am focusing on the wrist snap at the end. That takes a lot of timing and work through. So what I'm focusing on is ear to the ground and staying on hyzer. Now, the last part of it is following through forward first. F, F, F. That's the really important parts. Because if you come across your body and do that, that disc is on anhyzer, it's gonna flutter, it's not gonna work. And that's this way, that's not forward, it's diagonal. If you get everything out in front of you with a forehand, boom, and you allow it to be here, and we're creating, trying to be as linear as possible. Weird part about forehand, a lot of players will come up, but as they're coming into the throw, it'll start to get linear from there. So it's just a little different on the backhand, but it's a whole different motion. In this, that forward first is really important because I think people have talked about get your palm to the sky. Has anybody heard that term when talking about forehands? Palm to the sky? My issue with that is sometimes palm to the sky, what people will do is this. Their palm is to the sky, but what have they've done a swoop. And where does the disc go? Straight up in the air. So following through forward first will hit your gaps, will have you be smooth and just kind of effortlessly throwing. And you can start to then work that wrist angle and make it work. Now, with backhands and forehands, I would highly encourage every one of you, go grab a glitch, go grab a bite from Latitude 64. They're like throw and catch discs, essentially. They're lightweight, on the softer side, amazing. Learn to backhand and forehand those by playing catch with your partner, with somebody you play disc golf with all the time. Before you play around, it's like, hey, we'd be like 100 feet away, just play catch for a little bit. If you can learn to forehand that and backhand that, you should be able to forehand and backhand just about any disc, because those are very understable, they're very glidey, but they show you immediately when you've thrown them wrong. I mean, that's the other part about discs. It's like we want discs that don't autocorrect. Like that first one I threw is an autocorrect disc. It's an Omen from Thought Space. Thing's insanely overstable. But I could throw that thing terribly, but it's gonna do what it does and it's gonna stable out. And I can trust that. So I learned very little. But if I throw a glitch or a bite and I try and make it work on a forehand, when I throw it good, that's insane positive feedback that we want to have and will build up. That will tie into the mental part of things. We need that positive feedback when we play. So follow through forward first, work with understable stuff. Another part about forehand that I would highly suggest, it does play into backhand as well, but when you're working on it, don't go to a hole that say is 250 feet, but your forehand is only 185 feet. If you try and throw a 250 foot forehand when all you got is 185 in the tank, you're not gonna gain anything. You're just gonna get discouraged. You're gonna frustrate yourself. So where I talked about field work and doing extra shots, put yourself 195 feet, 200 feet away, and now try and see if you can put 10 more feet on it. by being smooth and maybe going slightly more understable and having something fly a little bit more for you. Those are the types of things that I would encourage to see forehands become more workable for people. And even if it's only you can throw 100-foot forehands, cool. 110 is your mark. And then slowly stretch it out with changing of discs and changing of stabilities and then maybe changing of some mechanics and playing some catch and seeing how you can make it fly for you. And again, don't get discouraged. If you have the opportunity, you see yourself about 100 feet away on an approach and you throw your backhand approach, just tell your group, like, hey, you guys mind if I toss a little forehand approach? I'm working on it. Would you be mad if somebody asked to do that on your card? Unless it's in a tournament, obviously. Like, then obviously, no, you can't do that. But in a casual round, you're like, yeah, go for it. It's all good. Even if you smack the first available tree, you learned. Don't do that, right? So there's a lot to it that we can start to build on, and it can be so impactful and important. Sweet. So putting and mental game, I think I love talking about together because so much of it is just visualization. Talked about putting things in our head that give us the right concept. So using discs that give us positive feedback for us. When we throw them well, they fly as we want them to. That's positive. That's helping us build. We're putting that in for like Control S, sick, forehand, save. We're doing it. We're doing that part, which is amazing, and that is building us up. But that comes from putting yourself in a mental space where you're ready to learn, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I have a sports mental coach that I've been working with who has told me I've had an issue on the green. He says, stop overanalyzing your misses. Overanalyze your makes. Because if you're overanalyzing your misses about what you did wrong, everything you did wrong, it's like, but you're giving so little time to your makes, you're not helping yourself. Like, you know what you did wrong. It's not like you need to be like, oh, you can't do that. It's like, no. But when you make a really good putt, it's like, what made that so good? What was I thinking about? What did I do with my body? How was my tempo? How was my timing? And that mental side of things, of looking when things are good, is great. But obviously, you look at the bad, but you don't have to spend so much time there. And how you talk about it as well. I talk about being a sponge and understanding as much as you can. While you're out there, absorb. Absorb what mistakes you're making. Absorb what positives you're making. And that'll go a long way in building you up to be better mentally. Now, putting plays into mental because it's so much about being confident. Gannon Burr is the best putter in the world. The dude's insanely confident. He walks up to every putt thinking he should make it. And then he does. And that's pretty impressive. Ricky Wysocki is the same way. That dude is borderline arrogant when it comes to putting, but for good reason. And so there's a level to that. I talk about when I go to putt, I tell myself, you got this putt. You're going to make this putt. I will say those words out loud sometimes, maybe a little bit quieter than I just did, but I will say those things. So I've gotten to the point of visualization is a big part of that, where I'm seeing myself make a putt. I've gone as far as to seeing myself take the disc out of the basket in my head. That I know that, yep, I'm gonna see myself, I'm gonna walk, give a little wave, go back to my bag, and do my thing. And that's all as I'm about to step up to a putt. I'm seeing that happen in my head. So I'm putting myself into that space that I'm making this putt. I'm going as far as knowing what I'm gonna do after I make it. And that can be really important. Now, putting itself is one of the harder things to talk about because people think that maybe changing putters will magically change it and make them better. Maybe if I go to a straddle, it'll make me better. I'm guilty of this as well. But most of the time is you need to just have a routine and build your confidence with that putt. You can have an off weekend, and it doesn't mean you need to scrap the whole thing. Stay with it. And once you've built a routine that feels repeatable, then it's just about trying to make those putts feel the same every single time. Because I guarantee you've walked up to a putt in a round. You've probably made that putt before in your disc golf time at some point. So you've done the thing. Now you need to get out of your own way and do it. Do the thing. So the best way to do that thing is by putting in the reps and having a repeatable motion that you can work on. So highly suggest build a routine, stick to your routine. For me, I took it from when I was in middle school playing basketball. I was not a basketball player, but when I did free throws, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty simple. I can count in my head every single time. I count to 5. Now when I go to putt, it's cool. Putter. See my lie. You got this putt. You're gonna make this putt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's my putting routine. And that keeps my tempo. And now, sometimes I get in a flow state where I don't count. But if I ever feel off in my putt, I'll start counting. So I always have something to fall back on. And a big part of what builds my confidence in putting is I'm not practicing 45 footers. I will throw some. My distance, I'm at 20 to 25 feet. I'm living there. And that's where I want to live. And I want to be really good from that distance, because if I make every single one of my putts inside of 25 feet, probably going to have a good tournament. Because if I throw the disc well enough, that's the type of putt I'm probably going to have more often than not. The only reason I'm having to make a 45 footer is because my drive was okay. My approach was not that good. You know, so you can dial in your throwing and get really good at those things, and that will help immensely. Also, think about it. 25 feet to the right, 25 feet to the left, 25 feet to the back, and the front. It's a pretty big circle to land a putt in, or to land a shot in. It's not about it wherever you end up. Just know that that's a pretty big circle to land in. If you feel confident inside of that circle, you're cooking. And that's what we want to be doing. So a lot of the time, if you see players have really good rounds, like, there's a really high likelihood that they didn't have to putt that much. And then you'll look and they made a couple circle 2 putts. So when they didn't throw their disc that well, they made a couple bonus putts. But every time they did throw the disc well, their putts were 18 footers, and they just moved on, move on, move on, because they are dialed. So it wasn't about like, man, I have to make sure I'm good within 50 feet, because 50 feet to either side of the basket, you're not going to be stoked if you throw your shot for this ace in a moment to 50 feet left or right. You know what I mean? You're not going to be feeling very good about that. And then I guess that kind of builds into, that's how we build ourselves up mentally. We do the simple things right. That 200-foot shot from the tee to that basket matters just as much as the 15-footer you have to make. So guess what? On the scorecard, they matter the same. They're worth 1 stroke. That's it. So you give as much time there as you do there on every single shot, whether it's a 12-footer or it's a 50-footer, whether it's a 400-foot throw. All of them are the same. So that's how we'll build ourselves up in the mental side. And yeah, anybody have any questions? That was a lot of talking. It was good. If there's no questions, you can ask while we're throwing, but you got one?
Nose angle.
Yeah. What you struggling with, forehand or backhand?
Backhand.
Okay.
I would say keeping the nose down. For the most part, I can get a good drive off, but sometimes I do struggle with just putting it up higher than I'm supposed to.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know. I guess I'm not focusing on.
Everybody can grab a disc and you can feel it, because if I'm here relaxed and like this is relaxed, but I'm holding the disc tight, but I'm relaxed. My nose is up. You really got to focus on pushing that nose angle down. What's going to happen is you're going to feel some strain up here in your elbow when you start to do that. That's because muscles aren't fully built up for it yet, but you really focus on getting that nose angle down. So when I'm going to throw, I really try, and that's the thing that I lock in before I'm about to throw a backhand. I'll wait, I'll be here, like, boom, get my nose angle down, and now I am staying in that as I go into my my run up, my routine. And I'm really trying to keep that angle locked in. You might have, maybe if you look at some video from the side or something, you might have a little curve. You're making a little Nike check at the end, which is not what you should be just doing. You should be keeping that nose angle down. So really try and think about it. You might need to be emphasizing where you're following through as well, in that, to keep that line very straight.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but check that as well. Again, lock that thing in.
Gotcha.
When I first learned that, I had to stop throwing for 3 days because I went and threw hundreds and hundreds of shots with that nose angle down, and the muscle in there was just like, nope, don't even pick up your coffee. I'm not doing it. We're not doing anything. It was really mad at me. So like, be careful with that. Best part about disc golf, you can play every day. Worst part about disc golf, you can play every day.
Yeah.
Because your bodies sometimes will say no. This is good. Great question.
Same concept, but uphill.
So uphill, again, I touched on it very briefly, but really try and match the plane. So if I reach here to throw uphill and I'm going into a hill, I'm just going to throw straight into it. To really try and just, if you can, shift your shoulders and make your reach back down to throw up. And what you're trying to do in that is have your follow through be boom and try and throw it up and step through forward. I think what happens a lot when people throw uphill, they end up here and they go, and they stay back. Still put the energy as much as you can forward so it climbs the hill. It's very hard. It is not an easy thing. I was fortunate enough in my disc golf career to spend a decent amount of time in Salt Lake City, Utah. I played mountain golf, which that'll teach you something. It'll humble you really fast. You're like, yeah, it's 250 feet uphill. Cool, I'm gonna throw a distance driver and I come up 50 feet short. You're like, what just happened? This hole is insane. So, but that was a really great lesson because I kept putting them too low and burning them into the hill or skying them, and then they fade and they fly back down the hill, which is not fun either. And then to that same concept, when throwing downhill, you throw it up too high, it's just going to stall out and it's going to fade really hard. That's why we really want to drive them into the ground so they kind of work themselves and they can stay really straight. Great question. Any more? That's fine. Yeah, let's hit it.
So you were talking about engaging the hips. How do you incorporate that more into forehand versus backhand?
Great question.
Because that's been a very strange feel.
Yeah, so I haven't really thought about how I would say the words. So if I'm doing a forehand, I'm here. Yeah, I think I'm like kind of doing that Dak Prescott thing. You know what I mean? I'm doing that thing. Like I'm kind of just making sure my lower body is engaged in the throw. How you can work on that, what I would say would be make sure you try some from a standstill and be here and just try and actively think about it and then move from that to a one step to where you can be here. So it's like a one step is just your feet are together and then you just really try and get that incorporated into the throw and see if that can start to, you can just actively think about it until you don't need to be thinking about it. As I mentioned, a lot of it comes from the wrist snap.
Sure.
So if you're overthinking and then trying to gain power that way, spin it. Like, be a spinny boy. Like, that's like, I love being in the woods and doing a little spinny little sidearm that gets me out of trouble or something like that. And that's again, with working with understable discs, it's really good because you don't have to do as much. Elbow staying in, I think, is also important, like, to talk about, because if your arm is out here, it's going to be a lot of arm throwing, and you're not going to want to incorporate your hips. Where if you're in here, you have to kind of be together, because like you have to kind of get out of the way and snap through the shot with that forehand. Yeah, those are things I would try. I think that's something that I maybe haven't put enough thought into because I've just done it naturally. So it's kind of hard to put that.
I've tried to watch some explanation, and everyone has their own little breakdown, but it's just feels foreign when you're watching it.
100%. Well, do some tools, just try from those standstills where you're actively thinking about it. Then you might unlock something, because you might be like, oh, I was never doing this before, and now that works when I do my run up, and it's actually super. I think that's a great place to start, like I said. But that was how I was with the nose angle thing. Didn't realize that I was losing 30 feet, 40 feet because I just had slight nose angle up, and then bam, and then ouch, and then it's good. So, yeah. Any more questions? You guys want to throw for the ace?
I got one.
Let's hit it. Okay. No problem.
Footwork. How important is it to, I guess, I know it is very important, but being light on your feet, moving on the balls of your feet,
yeah,
or even just being comfortable with, on your last step to follow through,
yeah,
being on your heel or the outside of your shoe.
I really like to get to my heel as a brace point, but I'll follow through up onto my foot. But when I'm exploding, I kind of want that heel on the ground. because if my foot is up and I'm exploding like this, I don't know what's going to happen to my knee. My knee can't actually handle that. Like this could be I could die. I don't want that. So I want to get down here. I want to be comfortable because this is a brace point where I am. This is going into the ground, so I can use all of that energy that I've done with my footwork and allow that to explode and go into the disc, and then we follow through afterwards. It's a timing thing that takes a little bit of a little back and forth to figure out, but. As for everything about being light on your feet, whatever feels comfortable for you. I jump up in the air like a ballerina, and it's great, but it works for me because I get to that point where I plant in. As long as you're transferring the weight and not firing too early or too late, you're gonna be doing really well with your footwork. And again, as I mentioned before, footwork can be a wonderful, wonderful concept to help you hit depths. So you're not actively having to see it. You just trust it. It's like if I plant at that spot on the tee pad, you can look at that as you're running up. If I hit that tee pad and I follow through with my shoulder, like we're there. I'm a gap guy, and I love it. Macy Valadiaz, her husband Jamie, he's mainly on the bag and being an awesome dad. He has the best turn. Every time he hits a gap, he's like, dude, all I do is hit gaps. And like, so it's like, I love that concept. So use that when you're working on your footwork to like find something that hypes you up. It's like, yeah, I'm a gap guy. And like, it'll be really helpful. And just don't be planting hard on that toe. Get that heel on the ground and then explode through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course. You ready? Let's do it.
I want to make a point.
Yes.
Your point of talking about filming yourself when you're throwing, that's how I started off doing it, and it really changed my game. Like I paid attention to everything that I was doing on the course.
Yeah.
From putting to driving, it changed everything. So you can see what you're doing wrong. You can really like understand
You could be
how
your
it
own teacher
feels
here.
when it's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just like you can really
100%.
everything. Putting, that's the perfect way to do it.
It's
can
really,
see, like,
really
your
incredible what watching and having technology like that can do. It's so,
It really helps.
it's nuts. It's nuts. And now we're in a place of information too, where you can ask people what they think about your form, but you also got to go figure it out yourself too, which is great.
I did the same thing. It was right out here.
Yeah.
These fields right here.
So fields are amazing as well because what people will do when they go do field work is they just throw as far as they can. I like to throw and try and like I'll use a soccer goal if I'm working on shorter shots, and I'm like make the disc land inside those two posts in the field. Not as far, it doesn't have to go into the goal. Keep the shot coming into the ground there. It can be out here, but then swinging back in. If it lands there, because disc golf in the woods, you kind of don't care about where the disc comes to rest as long as it's navigating the woods as you want. But when you go to an open course, now that's when it becomes paramount of knowing where the disc is going to come to rest. Because there are certain places that you want to be so you can attack a green a specific way. Or, it just becomes more paramount. And that's just as you're developing, you want both. And you should be able to think and adapt and change for both. Amazing. That's so good. Filming is, I love that's it. So I come from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I grew up in Grapevine, Texas, where I graduated high school. So this is the stomping grounds. I remember my buddy's house in Grapevine. We were playing Bear Creek. Rest in peace. Yeah. So sad. He took me there. We went to Academy, grabbed some discs, and then went to the course. And then we came back to his house, and we were downloading videos to watch people play disc golf. Think about the amount of technology and filming you have these days. It's crazy. So use it. Use it to your advantage. Like, it's really good. And I'm not like, oh yeah, I better appreciate it. Like back in my day, we didn't have that luxury. It's like, no, I'm saying like, this is dope. Disc golf has gotten so accessible and it's so open for everyone. No matter your walk of life, no matter where you've been, where you come from, who you are, disc golf is welcoming in that way. So embrace this amazing positivity that we have of being able to learn and teach yourself some stuff, which is great. Cool. All right, let's go throw. Let's do it. Thank you guys.